Hi, everybody. Today on Morning Brew, we're sitting down with one of the most influential business leaders in the history of Laredo and the Texas-Mexican border region. Dennis Nixon has served as CEO of International Bank of Commerce for an incredible 50 years. And during that time, he's transformed IBC from a community bank into one of the largest independent banking organizations in Texas. And for me, this conversation is just a bit of a full circle moment because my first job after coming home from college was at IBC Bank as the head teller at the downtown location. So fast forward 3 decades later, and today I have the opportunity to sit down with him for a conversation about leadership, vision, growth, and the lessons he's learned over the last 5 decades. So welcome to Morning Brew, Mr. Nixon. Thank you so much for being here. It is an honor for me to sit down with you because, as I just mentioned, you were my first job. IBC was my first job right out of college. And I have to say that even during college, I would come home during Christmas vacation, during the summers, and I was a teller. So IBC even helped fund my college education. So for that, thank you so much. And thanks for being here today.
Well, we're so glad that you had the great success you had, and hopefully IBC had a part of that. And certainly working as a teller, you got to deal with people and understand the conflicts and the joys of being with people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's helped you in your career all during your life. And so congratulations on all you've achieved.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. And I just need to preface that I need to call you Mr. Nixon because I will always consider you, my first boss and one of my best bosses, and I have a great deal of respect for you. So, but I do want to say that whenever I run into somebody who tells me, oh, I worked for IBC, it's kind of a rite of passage if you work for IBC, and you see these individuals in leadership roles all over the place, and typically in roles that are very people oriented and they're charismatic. And I think that because of your philosophy as the CEO of IBC and the we do more and being very personable leads to very successful people, because that's the type of boss and CEO that you always have been. Let's talk a little bit about your
we're very proud of what you just said, because we do deal with a lot of entry-level jobs. People get out of high school, they may be going to college or going to college and working, which a lot of people did in my generation especially. And the attributes and the teachings that we have at the bank, we think really creates a wonderful opportunity for them to expose all their thinking and be able to deal with people, which is our business. And so it's a great opportunity, and I know you probably enjoyed that. And even my daughter, when she was in college, she worked part-time in the summers at the bank, and we used to always laugh at the stories she would tell of the things that went on during the day at the bank. So it's a lot of experiences, and we're very proud of IBCers everywhere. And we're constantly running into people who have spent time with us, and we love the people who stay longer. We have people who've been with us as long as I have, but we do recognize that people move in different directions, and we do love the fact that we're an entry point for a lot of great people.
Yeah. Let's talk, speaking of entry points, that's a great transition. Mr. Nixon, let's talk a little bit about how you ended up in Laredo, because you're not from Laredo, but you might as well be, because you've been here for quite a number of years, decades. But tell us how you ended up here in Laredo, and how did you end up being the head of IBC?
Yeah, I was a bank examiner. When I got out of the University of Texas, I went to work for the control of the currency with the U.S. Treasury, and I examined banks all over South Texas. And one of the banks I examined was the Union National Bank in Laredo. And back in 1970, a little bit before 1970, Byron Nelson, who used to be the second officer in the bank behind Mr. Keck, had a heart attack, and Mr. Keck got really nervous that he was never going to be able to come back to work. So he reached out to me and offered me a job at that time, and so I accepted that job. And so I moved to Laredo in 1970 to be the number 2 guy in the Union National Bank, and that's where I spent my first 5 years in Laredo. And then I transitioned into the Bank of Commerce at the time when the Sanchez family got control of it, and they wanted to change the leadership. So I'd known the Sanchez family a little bit before that as part of the union experience, and so we'd kind of hit it off, and they offered that position. It's something that I had planned for and looked for all my life, that I wanted to do that. Obviously at the time I was very young, 33 years old, so 33. It was a little bit of a leap. But I'd already had quite a bit of experience because I'd been an examiner for 6 years, and then I worked at Union 5. And so I had regulatory experience as well as banking experience. So I felt like I was pretty well equipped to do the mechanics of banking. But then the big challenge is the people part of banking, the customers as well as the people that you work with. So that was the biggest challenge of all.
You know, at you said 33 years old?
Yes.
At 33 years old, so you spent the majority of your 20s, you were at UT, and then you went straight into banking,
Right.
all of your 20s. A 20-year-old back then is very different from a 20-year-old right now.
Correct.
Did you felt ready to be the CEO of a bank, and the bank at the time had about 40 million in assets or so?
Yes.
Yeah. Were you worried that, were you ready for that? And were you worried about, because you were going to go up against other CEOs that were going to be twice your age?
Right. No, it was really, I think my generation, especially, we were taught to be self-reliant, and I can remember when I went off to UT, my parents didn't take me up and tuck me in and find me a place to live. I got my car, a car that I'd bought because I'd been working already in part-time kind of things and built up cash to buy a car. And I loaded my stuff and went to UT. And so now you've got to go up there with the parents, and they got to find you a place to live. They got to tuck you in. They got to worry about you. We were much more advanced. I mean, I felt at 18 I was equivalent to maybe a kid today that's 30. And so it's a much different attitude. So I felt very comfortable that I understood, like I said, I felt very comfortable with the mechanics of the business and how to deal with it. And I was dealing with customers at Union, so I'd gotten a really good introduction into the city and to the people. So I felt very comfortable moving to Bank of Commerce and being able to do that job. Plus, I was very fortunate to have Mr. Sanchez active. He was, a good leader. He didn't want to be in the bank. He didn't want to deal with the details of the bank, but he loved the customer relationships. He loved to be out with people. And so I would be with him a lot. And so he was the older, more senior person, and I was the young kid. And unfortunately for me at the time, when I was 33, I looked 25. So it was even worse for me from that standpoint. People take me seriously. But I think because I apparently knew what I was doing at the time, people got confidence in me, and with Mr. Sanchez's activity and his role, it worked out beautifully over the years.
I read that you and Mr. Sanchez never, ever got into arguments, that you all were always on the same page and never disagreed. How much of that did that play into your success as a CEO?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we were always on the same page, but I think we had built such a respect for each other that, every time I would have something that was kind of irritating, like you'd have maybe with a family member or something, and I would always think to myself, well, is this really worth creating a big fight or some kind of an obstacle? And I would usually come up with the answer, no, let's just move on. And I think he almost probably was doing the same thing subconsciously. And I'm sure I irritated him from time to time, but we never felt that those irritations were to rise to a level where there should be a confrontation. And so I think that's why we got along so well. And we were always on the same mission. He was very excited and committed to IBC. In fact, I think he liked it more than the oil business, and really spent a lot of time. He traveled with us. We were all over Mexico, all over the place with him, going to all kinds of events, reaching out to all kinds of different people, different businesses, and he was always right there with us. So he was very focused on getting to that first $1 billion, and I still remember that he was so excited when we called him up and said, well, we hit the $1 billion mark. So
wow.
It was a big day for Tony Sanchez.
Yeah. As a teller, I remember seeing him walk through the lobby. He would come by and he would say hello, and he would shake everyone's hands, and just very charismatic. He was a lovely man.
Yeah, everybody loved Tony. He was really quite a personality, and as you said, very open and very easy to talk to, and he loved to spend time with the young people in the bank. And at the time, he really gave people a lot of time, and I think they really appreciated that very much. Yeah,
definitely. Let's talk a little bit about the bank. You coming over from Union National Bank to International Bank of Commerce, did you understand, or did you see something about IBC where you knew that this could be the jewel of South Texas? Did you always know from the beginning that this could be more than what it was?
Yeah, everybody has those kind of hopes when you take on any new job, that you can take it to the highest level possible. And certainly I had ideas and thoughts that I developed with being at the Union Bank, and with the Keck family being in charge of the bank, a lot of those thoughts and ideas were not received well. maybe I was being pandered to in some ways, but not really effectively doing things. So I kind of had a wealth of things stored up. And so when I moved to the Bank of Commerce, I was immediately able to put in place a lot of things that I liked and thought would be successful to the bank.
And Mr. Sanchez gave you that flexibility
and
to do
the whole
so.
board did. We had a good board, and the whole board gave us that kind of support. And everybody wanted to grow. Everybody wanted to achieve things. And so we were all a great team. And then we had a bunch of officers that came in at the time and then after that were just really dedicated to growing the bank. Nobody basically ever said no. If you worked 12 hours a day and then you had to go to an event at night, you went. Or if you had to go on a trip on the weekend for a wedding with a customer, you went. And the wives all, Mrs. Sanchez traveled, my wife traveled, everybody did. So it was really an event where everybody was involved. It was a community of activity. It was a special time and a special connection that I don't think people realized what a great family. And then people have asked me, will you retire? And I said, well, how can I retire from my family? I said, I've dedicated so much time, and the people that I love are all part of the family, or connected to the family, connected to IBC in some way. And that's the energy that you get when you're having that kind of success, and people love to do what they're doing. They just love to participate and love to be a part of it. And then we were struggling against two of the old established banks in town, Laredo National and Union, and people were saying, oh, we're the young kids on the block and the upstarts, and we really are not going to be able to be successful. So we just had to fight through all of that and do the things we thought was right, and we eventually we achieved, because Laredo National Union are not here anymore.
Exactly.
And we're still standing. Huh?
I was gonna bring that up, because it seems as if when you went over to International Bank of Commerce and they allowed you, and of course the board, to think out of the box and do things differently than the old establishment, and the old establishment being L&B and Union. And like you said, they're not here anymore. So it was those ideas that you had and that you brought with you, young ideas that worked, and they did what they needed to do. And, congratulations to you, because you're the one left standing. And that says a lot.
There was, Bank of Commerce was really formed by the retail groups in Laredo at the time, because most of the Union Bank and the Laredo National were primarily agriculture or cattle raising, and they were kind of the old traditional areas of what went on in Laredo over those years. And so there was sort of a rebellion attitude a little bit in the bank too, was like, we want to do things differently. We want to be business oriented. We don't want to be just ranching oriented. And so we took on a whole different path that way. And the board, the people that were on the board, were much more engaged in just the general business world than the other banks, we think. And so it did separate us, and it finally paid off in the fact that people started transitioning to us because we were more committed to that kind of part of the city and especially as trade was beginning to happen, the World Trade Organization, other things on the border were beginning to happen, and we were uniquely equipped to deal with it, which is another positive. It helped us a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a short little break, Mr. Nixon. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation on the growth and the journey that Mr. Nixon had with the bank and how it did eventually hit that $1 billion mark. Stay with us, Morning Brew.
Why pay a monthly fee? Free checking at IBC.
Organic Man Coffee Track, Laredo's first and only coffee air roastery. For over 10 years, we've crafted bold, smooth flavors from around the world, committed to your health by exclusively using organic ingredients. Organic Man Coffee Track. Travel the world, one coffee at a time.
Back, everyone, to this episode of Morning Brew. We have the distinct honor and privilege to have with us Mr. Dennis Nixon. He's the CEO, chairman of the board of International Bank of Commerce. We are just thrilled to be able to talk to him about his journey from when he took over IBC and where the bank is now, which, Mr. Nixon, you were able, I know that we talked about before the commercial break how excited you were being able to report to Mr. Sanchez that y'all hit your $1 billion mark. Now you're at 16.5 billion. Am I getting that figure correct?
Yes, approaching $17 billion. Yes, we're
That's
exciting. Yeah.
It is exciting, and in the 50 years that you've been at the helm, you've also been able to just be a leader in so many policy decisions. You've talked a lot and written that we're going to talk about immigration issues, but let's talk the journey on where you took the bank and to where it's at right now.
Yeah, I think it was one foot in front of the other type of process. You know, you look back at it and you just said it was hard work every day. You know, those things that people say, what does it take to be successful? We try to impart that to our young people, patience and hard work. And a lot of kids today don't have the patience. And one of the things we did is we were working hard, we were moving fast, but we also understood it took patience to be successful, and you had to really allow time to move along and be able to gain the values of that. And so we paid close attention to that over the years and always balanced our growth between our capital and our earnings and the type of people we were bringing into the bank and the people who were working with us. We felt that was really very, very important. We've had some sensational people over the years. In fact, at our shareholders meeting this year, Gabby and his team, marketing team, put together a beautiful video on the history of the bank and showing a lot of the people, and you look back at all the leadership we had during those years, and that's what it was all about, is that they were very engaged. And my goal and my thoughts all there is I was in love with community banking. I love the fact that banks were a major part of every community and that everybody met through the banks or with the bank, or that was part of how you grew and how you really were successful as a business person or just as an individual consumer, that you had a good connection to the bank. So I was always very focused on a decentralized operating unit, where a lot of the larger banks like we are today, they centralize everything in one city and sort of drive all the decision making down. Well, we've been just the opposite. We have 12 regional banking centers spread across our system, and we go up from there instead of down from there. We have certain policies and procedures in place to manage a big company like we have. But we want to always understand what's going on in each of those communities, whether we're in Laredo or we're in McAllen or Brownsville or San Antonio or Houston, wherever we are. We're in 75 communities, and we really appreciate everything that each one of those communities gives to IBC, and we give back to them. And each one of them is unique and individually different. I mean, Laredo is slightly different than McAllen, slightly different Brownsville, certainly San Antonio, Houston, and so forth. So if you don't have local leadership there in those markets, you really don't connect well with the people. And to me, that's what it's about. It's a people business. I love to be with people. I love to see their success. The proudest thing I personally have is the number of people that we have affected in a positive way who tell me, you know, I couldn't have retired like this if I hadn't invested in IBC, or I hadn't been affected by IBC like you have through employment, and I've grown from there and I've become this, and thank you for that. And I said, that's what we're all about, is how well we can spread that value and take our values, introduce them to people, and let people learn and understand. And that today, frankly, that's a harder challenge than we've ever seen, because the young people today come in less prepared than they did years ago. A lot of their value systems are different today. People are not as, what I would call, bedrock as they used to be. They're more into things that you kind of have to shake your head and say, well, what's all that about? But you have to work through all those processes, and it's a lot of challenges, but the result, you find these really remarkable young people, and they do stay with you. I'm proud of the fact that we have people who started out as a young person like you, who stayed with the company and are now in some leadership role at high levels in our company, doing really great things. And we kind of see that every year when we have our bonus presentations and celebration, because we hand out our pins. You know, you see how many people get longevity pins, you know, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, how many 20-year pins, 30-year pins you're giving out. It sort of brings you into the context of, really, there's a lot of people here that have spent a lot of time here, and we really respect that. We love to bring people up from inside. We have to time go outside for maybe some leadership positions, but I just love to see somebody start out as a teller, go to head teller, become a teller supervisor, then become a leader in operations, and then move on to other roles in the company, because we're always trying to create these career paths for people. And then to get them to give back. You know, our EAB, for instance, is out there, our employee group. They started that. They put it together 25, 30 years ago, and they go out and do all kinds of things in the cities in every single market. And we sponsor that. We bring them together once a year and talk about all the things they're doing, give them energy to continue to do that, thank them for the work they're doing, and have all kinds of awards and prizes for them because they do marvelous work in the cities. And in many communities, if it isn't for the IBC volunteers, these NGOs wouldn't have any support at all. They wouldn't have people to, take the money and sell the tickets or be at the events at the gatekeepers at the gates and stuff like that. So that's part of all of our integration into the community and really be a part of that. And a lot of the bigger banks have just lost all of that. They just think they can buy an ad in a newspaper or a television program or something, but they don't have to connect to the people like that. And that's where I think I get depressed about that because our industry is losing its way in that sense, and we continue to lose community banks because they just can't survive anymore.
Is that when you came over to International Bank of Commerce, when was it that you adapted the mantra, we do more? And is the we do more, what you're telling me right now is that's in every community that you're at. So what we see here in Laredo is everywhere with that whole we do more mentality. And that, based on what you're telling me right now, has led to a big part of why IBC is so successful. So let's talk about the we do more. Where'd that come from?
We've talked about that, and we've sort of researched it. We can't really quite remember when we started that. It's been in our blood since forever, so to speak. And so where did it really happen? And somebody, bright person, came up with that idea, and we've adopted it. And I think it's just more than a slogan because we use it as a defining of excellence too. When we have a problem with an employee and they've made a mistake, and we ask them, where's the we do more in that job? Why are you not doing more? And if you've made that mistake, why aren't you thinking about doing more? So we use it as an everyday part of our company. It's not just something we put up on a screen and talk to people about. It's what drives us and how we really account for our activities, and we recognize we do more people in our company all the time, and how we respect that work. And so when you live it like that, and it's part of your basic psychic every day, and how we treat our employees, how we treat each other, how we treat our customers, how we treat our communities, and we challenge people to that, and we ask that question: where's the we do more in you? Why are you not doing more? So we can all get together and make that happen. So I think it's just been a fabulous mantra for us to follow, because of the fact that it puts that challenge in you every day. And then we added to that going from good to great. So how do you get from good to great if you're not doing more? You've got to really be in the process to make that happen. So it's a real struggle, to manage so many people and get everybody on the same page. But I think because we're decentralized, we're able to do that better than most, because our executive teams in each of those markets is responsible for that as well. And obviously we have corporate events and corporate meetings in which we reemphasize the values, but most people accept it. We always have the outlier that doesn't, and a lot of times they will move on, but that's okay. People find their own way, but we want to keep that intact in our company because it's meant so much to so many people.
Yeah. Do you find that challenging because you're in 75 different communities? You have to clone a Mr. Nixon in each one of these communities so that they could have that mentality and they could make sure that the bank is successful in their community. They have to be on the same page of the we do more. Are there still people out there that have that mentality?
Yes, and we've got 12 regional banking centers, and there's those individual banking centers have individual local boards of directors, and then we have corporate meetings that emphasize that, and our marketing team and all the people that we work with promote that constantly. And I think it's pretty uniformly in place now, because most of our leadership in our company has been around quite a while now, especially our senior executive leadership. Most have been at least 15 or 20 years, so they've heard that message repeated multiple times and reinforced multiple times. And we have individual events that we put on where we do it. We cheer. We've got our IBC cheer, which screams out we do more, and those things go on at a retail level. They go on corporately. It's just part of what everybody understands, and it doesn't take very long for people to get immersed in that process when everybody's doing it. You've got the outliers in everything you do, but it's been a wonderful experience for me, and I just love the idea to see the enthusiasm when people are doing our cheer, and they'll get up and scream the words, and they've got it going, and it's that we do more, yes, and it's IBC, and so it really really goes out into the system very well. And people embrace it because it's joyful. You know, you're having a good time, and we celebrate. I tell people, look, you have fun at work. We're going to be here for a long time, and we spend most of our lives at work. Have fun at work. You need to enjoy the people you're with. You need to enjoy what you're doing. You get to connect with all these people. You get all kinds of opportunities to move through our system. Enjoy that. Have a good time, and it's not dreary. My days go by like that, you know, because I'm always busy doing something, meeting with somebody, talking to somebody. That's the fascination of it to me, is that community of interest that you have, and each town has their own kinds of things that they're into, you know, and what's important to them, and that's why that decentralized process is so important, is each one of those communities has that. And most of the people in our markets, we try to get people from there, and our people are from those communities, so a lot of them have grown up there, lived there, or they've gone off to school and they've come back, and there's been an opportunity that they didn't think was there and now is there because of IBC.
Have you noticed over the years, Mr. Nixon, on the brain drain? You know, we've got such talented individuals in our community, and then they go off and they get degrees and they just don't come back. What are your thoughts on this? What do you tell youngsters who might be at your bank, you know, earning a college degree like I did? How do you convince them to come back home and give back to the community and be a part of it?
They've got to have a good future, and they've got to have social and quality of life issues, which we've, you know, fought for here in Laredo for a long time. I'm still disappointed in the fact that we don't have enough quality of life issues here to be able to go and do things. You know, people want to go to San Antonio or Austin or someplace else because they vision much more to do outside of their work day. But we're also seeing people coming back who have gone away and their parents are here, in some cases in Laredo, and they come back because they feel an obligation to be involved in their parents in the latter part of their life, and so we've found opportunities there. But the thing that worries even more than just leaving some of these young people is now they move to San Antonio and they get married and they have children, and guess what? The parents who were here now decide, well, I'll move to San Antonio because my kids are up there and I want to be close to my kids. So we're losing some of our generational people as well because there's no opportunities here. So we don't just lose the kids, now we lose the parents. And so, yeah, that is a real problem, and we need to do more in each of the communities to be aware of that. That's why we're involved in our communities so much and trying to push things that keep people here. But they have to have opportunities. But I believe in Laredo today, people do really have opportunities, and with the university and the college, Laredo College, the things that are going on, the new UT Health Science Center issues here, there are things happening here today that give people the opportunity to want to stay. And then the scale of the city has gotten to the size now where, you know, there is something to do. My big disappointment is what's happened in Mexico, and we've lost our connection to Nuevo Laredo because so many of us, I'm sure you did when you were younger, enjoyed all the social life and the camaraderie of our sister city, and missed that a great deal. And I hope at some point we can build that back, because I think that's very important to the experience here on the border.
Yeah, those were definitely some fun times when we would go over and eat some really good food and just, you know, have fun walking around the stores over there.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Mr. Nixon's legacy. We're also going to talk a little bit about how he's gotten a bit into politics, and also, of course, his international trade thoughts and immigration thoughts. Stick around. Morning Brew is coming right up in just a brew.
Man Coffee Track, Laredo's first and only coffee air roastery. For over 10 years, we've crafted bold, smooth flavors from around the world, committed to your health by exclusively using organic ingredients. Organic Man Coffee Track. Travel the world, one coffee at a time. Welcome
Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of Morning Brew, where we are sitting down with Dennis Nixon with International Bank of Commerce. He has been at the helm of IBC for 50 years. The bank has been in existence for 60 years. And in the time that Mr. Nixon has been there, of course, the bank has grown tremendously. So we've gotten to the point where we are going to talk a little bit about how he has stretched out and delved into immigration and some political issues. So, Mr. Nixon, thanks for sticking around with us. Appreciate having you with us.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about, let's start with immigration, because you wrote Common Sense Border Management Solutions. You had your own solutions to immigration, and you wrote this back in 2024. And I want to talk a little bit about when you started branching out into other ideas other than banking. When did that come about?
That's pretty much been embedded in us most of our time, I would say. Probably the early years of the bank, not so much, but we were always involved in the community, and we were always interested in what was happening, whether it was the Chamber of the Economic Development or what other leadership roles we played. And obviously, you cross the roads with government in every one of those roles. And in my career, my biggest obstacle and my biggest challenge has been dealing with government. Our banking is a heavily regulated industry. And so we've always had to fight for issues and argue about problems and try to put sense into things. And that's why I named things common sense, so people can get a view of that. The whole immigration issue became, to me, an issue of workforce. And I started looking at this probably 20 years ago, and I started talking about the problems we're facing in the world with demographic issues, and I call it the demographic winter, where so much of the world is dying, and people see people everywhere and they think, people are endless, but almost all the developed countries of the world now have gone into a death phase, and countries like Japan and all of Europe, the United States now as well, even Latin America, takes 2.1 births per female to sustain the population. And virtually none of the countries in the world are achieving that now. U.S. is about 1.7, so we've fallen way below that number. The only way we continue to grow is through immigration. And America has been probably the most welcoming country in the world for immigration. And I believe in legal immigration. I believe in managed everything we do. I'm a management person. I don't think you should do anything unless you have a plan and you think it through and you come up with objectives and so what you want to try to achieve. And so I started talking about the demographic problem and warning people about this issue. I've noticed here a few years ago, Elon Musk came up and said, we got this is the existential threat of the world, is this demographic problem. He's right. But the members of Congress, the people at the state level, local levels are not worried about that. Now we're seeing what? Elementary schools being closed, right?
Exactly.
All over the place, right?
We've got 2 here in Laredo and many across the state.
San Antonio and everywhere.
Corpus
And I said,
Christi, Dallas.
this is coming. Here it is. No, people don't believe it. It says, why is that happening? Because you're not putting any children into those schools. And so what is that going to happen in 10 years from now? The Japanese are losing about 1 million people a year already. And by 2030, that's going to be a crisis. And by 2050, which everybody says, it's so far away, it's 20 years away. And so you're talking about Japan losing 1/3 of their population by 2050. And so Europe's in the same boat. So I said immigration should be a positive activity of us and the government and everybody in the United States. Unfortunately, President Biden poisoned the well so badly on that by having this open border policy, bringing in a lot of bad people came into the country. I think all of us here at the local level have known for years that there are a lot of really good people that come here and want to work and improve their lives, and that's been the history of immigration. But in that period of Biden, they all let in criminals and bad people, not just from Mexico and Latin America, but from all over the world. We were getting people coming in here, and the cartels took a hold of that, and you put a bounty on everybody coming across and toll on the river. So it created a big mess. So I've continued to push that because I think if we don't get immigration reform, workers plus productivity equals GDP. If we don't have any workers and all the AI things that we're talking about, all your automated system here that help, but that may just be slightly behind the process of keeping up with the workforce we need. And so we also have a difficult problem with the trades because everybody had to go to college during the liberal period. I call the Obama-Biden period. Everybody had to go to college and they put a lot of money into that. But that stripped away all the interest in trades. So now we don't have any electricians, we don't have any plumbers, we don't have any drywall people, we don't have any carpenters, name it, we don't have it. Well, what happened now, we're cutting out the immigrants who are coming in here filling those positions. You know, one of our great customers from Mexico is in the construction business. We were at a meeting a while back, and she says, I'm really upset with you. And I said, why? She says, every time I train 10 welders, 8 of them go to the United States. I said, I'm sick of it. So I said, well, I understand why you're sick of it, but that's the problem. We aren't doing that. So we worked with Manita at the college now, not junior college anymore, the college, and worked with her on providing skill training programs over there. And she's undertaken that, and she's doing exactly the right thing. But look, it takes years to become a plumber. It takes years to become an electrician. So our connection to our workforce is being lost, and because we've neglected focusing on that and bringing the right immigrants into this country, we've got a real problem that is really going to, I think, crystallize big time by 2030, where we won't be able to build things. Some of these resorts and restaurants won't be able to open. And this whole negativity that was created, this whiplash we had from all the border being opened and people getting upset, you know, people in Des Moines or someplace in Cleveland or someplace in the Midwest getting really upset, creates a very negative vacuum now that we've got to fill. So can we get decent immigration reform where we can deal with the people who are here, the people we know have worked hard, the DACA people? I mean, we have 40 DACA kids that work for us in our company across the border. They're excellent workers. They're wonderful people, and we want to keep them. So, you know, I'm going to fight for that. And I think the role as a community bank is to fight for our cities. We're going to be no better than our cities. So I need to be involved in order to maintain our cities, because I am a reflection of the city. If my city declines and fails, I fail. So I can't let that happen. And so people, you know, get kind of irritated with me sometimes because I push very hard. But the thing that's killing us more than anything that I see today is complacency. Nobody votes, nobody participates. We elect people with 10 or 12% of the vote. This recent election in which we lost John Cornyn, which to me was an absolute tragedy. He's the senior member of our Senate delegation. He was going to be chairman of the Finance Committee, very, very important to us, very important to Texas. And we lost him, and only 1.2 million people voted.
Wow.
I mean, out of 19 eligible voters.
Wow.
What is going on in this country? And it's really scares me to death, because we're electing some real nuts. And today, when you look at Madami, who's a socialist, basically a communist, be the mayor of the city of New York in America, what is going on here? It's complacency. And I picked up on that issue probably 15 or 20 years ago at an event where somebody was speaking, and I was in that event, and he said the biggest danger we have in America is complacency. And I started thinking about that, and I started following that carefully, and I realized that he was absolutely right. Is we are just not interested in doing anything productive in these areas of government. We've just given up, so to speak, that government can't be fixed. And if we do that, you know, we go the way of Venezuela and all these other countries, because they've lost interest in being able to control what's happened in government. And government is supposed to be working for us, not working for them. And so now we live in a permission society. Everything we do today has to have the governmental permissions attached to it. We got to file an application or a permit or Spectre or something. It's ridiculous. And my industry, the banking industry, was just suffocated by restrictions and controls which push people out of the bank. We couldn't even make consumer loans anymore because of all of the requirements of DEI and the woke things and all the problems that went on. The so-called protecting people was pushing them out of all the institutions into payday lenders and all these kind of what I call predatory practice industries that really take advantage of the consumer. So you moved them from the place where they were really protected and you put them into the hands of the coyote. And it was just disgusting to me. So yeah, I'm going to be involved in it because I love this country. I love our cities. And I think that the people that here that don't vote should be ashamed of themselves, and that they don't participate. We try to do research. We try to interview candidates. We try to work with people. We have a PAC. We have a full-time public affairs organization in our company that does nothing but go out and look for the very best people to run and to be in these jobs, because we need good people in these jobs. We're not getting that today, and we're going to pay severe consequences for that, because we're not getting legislation and bills passed to protect the people. It's to protect the government. And it's really very sad to me to see how far we've deteriorated.
Yeah, you are very passionate about this, as
Yes.
we can see. When you go to Washington, Mr. Nixon, do they listen? You are a pillar, and you have a lot of good insight and the pulse on what's going on here on the border and in your industry. Do they listen to us?
They listen. They do listen, but you have to spend a long journey with political people. It's not a lot of people just think I can make a trip to Washington and have a visit in the office. There's a lot of showmanship to that, where trade associations, and you go up there, and the TV producers of America take you through Congress, and you get to talk to people, and you go out and everybody winks, and they're going about their business. So you have to, this is a long-term play, and so we've done this for years, spent a lot of time with people, a lot of time courting people and working with people and trying to give them best solutions. I had Senator Cassidy from Louisiana, who got beat in his primary recently. He called me, and I was not available, so he left me a long voicemail. And the one thing he says, I really appreciate your support, but more than anything else, I appreciate your advice and the things that you help me with. And to me, then that means we are resonating. When somebody who in defeat still reaches out to me individually and says, we really appreciate your advice. And so we've been able to bring people to play in our communities to get things done, and that's really important to me, that it's not just about the banking business, it's back to my community. I want Laredo to do the best. If you don't have these contacts out there, and you don't have this outreach, and on a continuing basis, you got to continuously do it. You know it as well as I do, being a professional. You've been at this a long time. It's not hit and miss thing. You have to do this every day. You have to be engaged every day, and you have to be consistent. And that's what we do. And we appreciate very much the people who help us. I tell people, you want to do this? I'll help you. But people won't do it. And IBC spends a lot of money every year in all of our communities to help them get this stuff done. And so, yeah, it's an uphill battle every day, and every day you get pushed back, and you got to scramble back up the hill again, and every day you get pushed back. But if you give up, what's the alternative? You lose the country. And we've got a very serious problem right now. I believe more than every time in our history that we're between this leftist view out there that says communism and socialism is where we want to go. I mean, I don't even understand where that comes from, because those forms of government have failed over and over and over again. No one has ever been successful in that area. You might point to China today, but how long is that going to last? It's a relatively short dynasty here at this point. The only thing that lasts long is constitutional republic, but our Constitution is just a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's the people behind it.
It's the people behind it.
Exactly.
So we don't be involved and engaged. It's we the people. But if we the people stay home, don't teach their children that they need to be out and understand. And unfortunately today, except for people like yourself who really expose these things, the media is not doing enough to understand, for people to understand what's happening. We've lost that independence in the media. A lot of the newspapers are biased, they're leftist, they're not fair-minded in reporting the news. And I know you've done some things, and we really appreciate your work, because you've exposed some very important things that need to be exposed.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. We just need to keep fighting the good fight. Mr. Nixon, we're going to take one more break, and when we come back, we're going to switch gears. We're going to do something a little bit more lighthearted, and we're going to do a little lightning round with Mr. Nixon for some intriguing questions. Stick around. Morning Brew is coming up next.
Why pay a monthly fee? Free checking at IBC.
Organic Man Coffee Track, Laredo's first and only coffee air roastery. For over 10 years, we've crafted bold, smooth flavors from around the world, committed to your health by exclusively using organic ingredients. Organic Man Coffee Track. Travel the world, one coffee at a time.
Back, everybody, to this episode of Morning Brew. We're going to do something a little bit more fun with Mr. Nixon. We're going to do a little lightning round. Now, Mr. Nixon, these questions, I polled the newsroom for some lightning round questions, and these are things that my colleagues came up with. So don't put too much thought of it, just the first thing that comes to your mind. And the very first one, crypto or gold?
Gold.
Definitely gold. Okay, mobile banking or walking into a branch?
Both.
Both of them.
That's right,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay, so both just as good as one another.
Well, they're not, but together they're wonderful.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Text or phone call?
Phone call.
Phone call. Okay. Cash or credit card?
Probably today, credit card.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. AI, opportunity or concern?
Opportunity. But it has to come with concern, because like all new technologies, they have to be learned.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Okay. Texas or Oklahoma, because you've got branches in Oklahoma.
I have to be careful with that. We just went through the Spurs and the Oklahoma team.
That's right.
My Oklahoma guys were rooting for the Oklahoma, and I was rooting for the Spurs, so I just kind of be quiet, you know.
You're going neutral on that one. Okay. Coffee, tea, or matcha?
I'm a tea guy.
Okay.
Okay.
Okie doke. Tacos or burgers? Tacos or burgers?
That's a both again, you know. You got to have both of those. You know.
Yeah, they're both really good.
Yeah.
Morning or night?
I'm a morning person.
Okay, woo.
Yeah.
So am I. Okay, this one came from one of our economists. Bearish or bullish on the economy?
I'm bullish with certain caveats and reservations. You know, there's some things that have to be done right, like we got to get this war in Iran solved and some other things. But I'm generally bullish.
Okay, so you're an optimist. Okay, this one is coming from everybody who is just wanting your insight. You have $100 in your pocket. Where would you invest it?
$100 in our pocket. IBC stock.
Okay, good one. And we saw what it was going for right now. It's about $70 a share right now. So we can all have one share of IBC.
That's right.
And then in many years from now, we will be doing very well off. Okay, one word to describe Laredo.
Wonderful city, multicultural city that's really refreshing in terms of how we deal with racial relationships and cross-border issues. It always amazed me that when you go outside of Laredo, you really see that when you run into people from Laredo who have been in Washington or moved to someplace else, and how well they do and how successful they are. So I think the seeds of this city are well placed, and when people go out, they seem to do really well. And I think it's because they have a clear vision and they don't have any impediments about race or gender or those kinds of things. And so it's refreshing to see that.
So your one word would be refreshing.
Refreshing.
Okay. One word to describe IBC.
Dedicated.
Okay, that's a good word. Dedicated to the community,
Yeah.
to its people, to
Right.
so much.
Right.
Okay, final parting words, Mr. Nixon. What would you tell your 33-year-old self now 50 years later?
Yeah, I think that all the hopes and aspirations that I had as a young person, which are clearly not learned day one, they grow over time, is that, you know, most of them have come true, and I think it's primarily because of the people that have been associated with IBC. I'm a happy spokesman for a wonderful group of people. You know, we have 300 and some odd officers that work every day to make our company great, and all the customers, the people who really love IBC and do extra things for us because we try to do extra things for them. So it's not something you can really predict when you're that young, but you have a target and a role to go, and if everybody would be patient, put one foot in front of the other, and learn. You got to stay all the time learning. I read constantly, listen constantly, and why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So if we do more of that, we'd be better off.
Those are good parting words. Listen more than speak.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Mr. Nixon, thank you
you
so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it very much. Appreciate your time
that you
spent with us.
Thank you for your maroon dress.
Oh, yes, IBC.
Yeah,
Went back to my roots.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. And
Thank you.
that does it for this episode of Morning Brew. Make sure to tune in next time for another great conversation. Until then, enjoy the brew.